Hope all is well. Welcome back, or if you're new, just welcome. I am Texas Beach Mom or Mama Robin, whichever you prefer. And tonight, those of you who watch these most of the time know that I mostly cover Lady Bird Lake, um, deaths, drownings, accidental drownings, whatever the fuck we're called. But so that's what we're going to stick with tonight. Um, Last Friday night, it was mentioned that there, and we've talked about these before, that there's a bunch of other cities. It ain't just happening to Lady Bird Lake. It's just one of the lakes this is happening at, and that's the one in Austin, Texas. We've mentioned before that there's been others in Chicago, Michigan, or in Illinois, Michigan, so forth and so on, Washington. And uh, one of my subscribers, Darlene, mentioned the fact that there had been one in, or that there had been at least one that she knows of in Nashville. So it prompted me to do some research on the one in Nashville. So I did, and I found a couple of people that have died, but it doesn't look like it's been a lot. Of course, none of these, whether it's one's in Austin, one in Chicago, and again, I never can remember where at in Michigan, but or wherever they're at. I'm sure the first couple didn't look like anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure the first couple really didn't look like it was anything. I believe it was, that's why they were initially blown up. But, after a while, there gets to be a whole lot, and you don't really, you know, I say they tend to, I've noticed in every state or every town, every city that they've been in, the police to blow them all off as accidental drownings. There's no connection. Um, TMZ, now, I'm sure most of you have heard of TMZ, and they are known to be just a paparazzi group. So they may not be considered to be a reliable source. But apparently TMZ has been covering this as well. And they have got a total of 47 men killed. Not in just Austin, but like throughout, like where all the states are doing it. It's been a total of 47 men. Now, I will tell you, like I said, you may or may not trust them as a reliable source. That's the number I come up with when I research it on my own, is 47. So that's a lot of men that have died in different cities, towns across, the United States. 47 men accidentally drowning. Now, she did mention Nashville, so like I said, I went to do some research in Nashville. And so far, I can only find a couple. But as I also just mentioned, when this first started in Austin or wherever it starts, there is just a couple. So I don't know if Nashville is part of this yet, but it's worth keeping an eye on it at this point, because it's not just happening here. But I did learn something else today. When I was researching for this, I discovered that another lake in Texas, Marcus, um, has had not a really high number, but they've had kind of an unusually high number for that area. And now this has been like a year or so ago, but they've had kind of a high number here lately, enough to make them go, wait a minute. They, instead of having three or four over a year's time, they had four over a couple of months. So I don't know, but that's another area I want to watch. For those of you who are not familiar, Canyon Lake is where I'm talking about, and that is by New Braunfels, um, San Marcos, things like that. So that's another one to keep an eye on. Is either Canyon Lake, New Braunfels, um, Canyon Lake in that area. Plus, I said Lady Bird Lake in Austin. And there's supposed to be another lake in Dallas where they're starting to see a spike. So as I continue to research these accidental drownings, more cities pop up. Yeah. I believe more and 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 more that somebody's killing our men. Somebody's killing our men, and they're either dumping them in the nearby lakes or they're killing them at the lake. It's probably more likely that they are being dumped. But whatever the case may be, I am seeing an uptick of as I research. I'm finding so Dallas is mentioning a few. Canyon Lake has a few. Austin, Texas has many. And again, some of these may not be related. The newer ones might not be related, but they might be. I don't know yet. So here in a minute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a video. Now it's a long video, and we're not going to watch the whole thing tonight, but we are going to watch a little bit of it tonight, and we are going to discuss it. So let me get this pulled up, so you don't see my ugly mug anymore, and we'll get this pulled up.
Is there a serial killer in Austin? People from across the country are asking that question after 4 bodies have been found in Lady Bird Lake during the last 2 months, even more over the last decade. Police say there is no serial killer and they don't suspect foul play. But internet sleuths are hard at work.
Well, a body was pulled out of Lady Bird Lake this morning. Austin police say homicide detectives are investigating, but the case is not being called a homicide.
Austin police have confirmed there is no foul play in all of the cases. Residents say they believe there's a...
I was born and raised here in Austin. I do like this until the last.
Found in the lake. Last year, there were multiple bodies showing fears of serial killer.
Austin police are investigating after a man's body was found in Lady Bird Lake over the weekend.
Another grim discovery in Lady Bird Lake Saturday morning.
Multiple men called 911 reporting the subject to be deceased and with the water on this end of the lake.
St. John's body was found in Bird Lake in February after he disappeared heading home from Rainy Street.
Austin police find the body of a college student in Lady Bird Lake. Leno vanished. St. Edward's University campus in Austin back on January the 6th.
Christian been missing around 1:30 after hitting a Rainy. His the area has the hours continued to grow.
5 bodies pulled from Lady Bird Lake in just 6 months.
They need to get to the bottom of it. I think something there is foul play. People aren't just falling into the lake. I've heard different things. I've heard, it's drunk people, but I don't think that it can't be the case for all of these people.
This is odd, and not only the fact that there would be so many accidents in an area that previously had none, but also the fact that no one noticed.
I just think it's a little suspicious or kind of scary a little bit, I guess.
I do feel like the frequency of these events is increasing.
Do not go anywhere alone. Obviously that's what's been happening. All male, all alone, gone.
In 2023, all of the bodies found in the lake were men.
We trust the city to get to the bottom of things, and some...
Now, when he first mentioned don't go anywhere alone, well, that's good advice for everything. And the other people have mentioned that they were all drunk. Some of them were, I think most of them had been drinking. Only a couple of them were actually technically drunk. I don't think any of these men are just getting drunk and falling in. And as I've said before in other videos, you have to do quite a bit of walking from Rainy Street to Lady Bird Lake to stagger into the lake and drown. We don't buy it. I don't know, man. There's a lot going on. I was looking for a different video, actually. I was looking for the video that talks about all the cities and all the areas where this has happened. I will eventually find that one. But I thought we could go over this one for a little bit as I continue to do more stuff on this, because all these people aren't just falling in and drowning, as we just said, you know.
Sometimes maybe they're taking the easy way out and saying it's not foul play because that's the easiest answer for them, but I think there's more to it.
Sergeant Lee Nouse with APD says the incidents cannot be tied together.
At this time, this is not being investigated as a homicide.
Our initial information doesn't show anything suspicious.
Police are not considering this a criminal investigation.
John's mother says she doesn't believe her son's death was accidental.
Every person who goes into Lady Bird Lake, you cannot just say it's accidentally drowned. There's something behind. It's very clear. You don't need to be an APD or an FBI to figure this out based on all these criteria, the age of the man missing, the timing and the place. You know, it's just common sense. It's time for the city to wake up. It's time for the city to do something.
Rumors of a serial killer in Austin have been swirling for years. So something that's going to shock everybody in today's video is that I was with one of the victims of this serial killer or group of killers on the night that they went missing. This is a personal story that I have, and this is why I'm so invested in this investigation, because I know what happened, and I know that what the police are saying happened isn't true. Right now, the hurricane has taken out Courtney and I's power for a full week now. We've been without power for a week. I came back to our house to record this. It is about 94 degrees in here if you see me sweating, but I felt like I had to come back to really explain this to you guys. So, Austin, Texas, if you don't know, is an amazing city. I moved to Austin personally in 2015 to attend film school at the University of Texas at Austin. I ended up dropping out of film school when the channel started taking off, and I'm so thankful to everybody for what they've done for me. But Courtney and I lived in Austin that entire time. Austin is where we fell in love. Austin is where I got married. Austin has a very special place in my heart. I made so many amazing friends, just made so many memories in Austin, and I'm sure you guys who have watched the channel for a while will remember that whole period of my life when I lived in Austin. But something's happening in that city. Something that the police will not acknowledge is happening. Something that is very dark and malicious and malevolent. And something that is shocking. This documentary is really going to blow your minds. But yeah, I'm not going to spare any time getting into it. Let's just dive right in. And we'll get to my personal story in a few minutes. So if you don't know how Austin is laid out, there's a huge, very tightly compacted city downtown area with 6th Street, the big party street, tons of restaurants and food. City Hall's down there, the state capitol is down there, and then intersecting downtown and I don't know what you would call really the other side of downtown for people that aren't there, but Austinites, you know, obviously you know Congress and going down on the road there. That waterway is Lady Bird Lake. Now, Lady Bird Lake, which is located in the heart of Austin, Texas, is a man-made body of water. This body of water was formed when a dam was built, and for years, this area around Lady Bird Lake, which it's confusing because it's called a lake, and it's really not a lake, it's more like a river, but that area used to be called Town Lake, and it was renamed Lady Bird Lake in 2007 after Lady Bird Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson's wife, who obviously holds a special place in Texans' hearts. Back in the day, the shoreline of Lady Bird Lake was described as being an eyesore. It was filthy, there was trash everywhere, shrubs. It was not a place that people really wanted to visit. And Claudia Lady Bird Johnson decided that she would make making Town Lake beautiful one of her personal priorities. So she supported a major cleanup, and she helped to establish hiking trails, biking trails all around the lake. And I can tell you, just having lived in Austin, I lived in downtown, we were on Lady Bird Lake all the time. There's so much that you can go do there. You can go paddle boarding, you can go kayaking. I lost my iPhone in the river one time. Paddleboarding, that's a whole different story. There's a ton of outdoor stuff to go do, especially the hiking and biking. When Courtney and I lived downtown, we would hike and walk that trail almost every day, just taking our dog on a walk. So it is a very well-used area. There are hundreds of thousands of people that use Lady Bird Lake every year. I'd argue to say millions. But interestingly, people haven't been allowed to swim in Lady Bird Lake since 1964. If I could find it, I'm going to insert a video right now from me in college where I was actually jumping off of a bridge into Lady Bird Lake, which is extremely dangerous. And I have been swimming in there in the past when I fell off of my paddleboard, but it's pretty strictly enforced. Nobody is allowed to swim in those waters. Now, people said initially that that was because of runoff from nearby chemical plants from the city, leftover toxic materials in the water from the dam that was built. There's an abandoned power plant right nearby that people have said might have to do with it. But in reality, it's really because it's deadly. You see, in the 1960s, a family went down to Lady Bird Lake on Mother's Day. They were going to enjoy a swim. It was a mother, her children, her husband, their father. They were all down there to have a great time. But unfortunately, two of the sisters, 8 and 11 years old, drowned in the lake. That was a very tragic event. I was actually able to track down some newspaper reports about that happening. But these drownings continued in Austin. In the following couple of months, there were 2 additional victims that were claimed by Lady Bird Lake. And from that point forward, they shut down the swimming. Later on, they declared that you can't use motorized boats on the lake for recreational use. They also banned fishing, and people in Austin kind of jokingly referred to it as a no fun zone. No swimming, no fishing, no boating. You can kayak and you can paddleboard, but really you have to be very careful. And yes, there have been tons of accidents in Lady Bird Lake. When I was living in Austin, I remember when a guy was fleeing the police and he crashed over the bridge into the water. Stuff like that happens, you know, because it's right in the center of a huge city. But we're not talking about those deaths today. We're not talking about random accidents or terrible misfortunes. What we're talking about today is a crime spree that has not only not been acknowledged by the Austin Police Department, but has been ignored. Victims' families that have been ignored. We're going to be talking to the families of victims today in this episode. And if you don't think that there's a serial killer or at least a group of individuals that are carrying out these killings in Austin by the end of this video, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, now you get the vibe. Lady Bird Lake is kind of dangerous. It's beautiful. It's serene. It's in the middle of Austin. People are on the water all the time. You can even see in my drone shots, I got people paddleboarding and canoeing. It's a very, very popular place to go relax, especially in the summertime months in Austin. But it's the drownings of these men that have caught people's attention. Today's documentary was brought to you by Babbel. Courtney, Connor, and I are planning on going international soon, and obviously when we visit a foreign country, we want to know a little...
Let's get this past the commercial. He's going to talk about a personal experience with one of the victims. And that's another thing. A lot of these men have been out partying, and then at some point they separate. But I, for the life of me, do not understand why they end up alone at Lady Bird Lake at night in the cold.
A bit of the language so that we can keep up with the locals. Lebanon, and eventually immigrated into the United States. Now, interestingly, Rahad lived in Austin for 30 years before he died, so he was a bona fide Austinite. Safe to say that he had been to Lady Bird Lake many times. And he was a highly intelligent man. He had business degrees, he taught keyboarding to middle school students, and everybody that knew Rahad said that he was patient, kind, and just a very generous, loving man. Rahad also was very outspoken on international politics. He volunteered to raise money for Palestine back in his time. And yeah, he was very outspoken about U.S. policy in the Middle East. Now, interestingly, in February of 2008, Rahad's home was raided by the FBI. I couldn't find exactly what the reasoning was behind that, but it was stated that there were 40 boxes of paperwork removed from Rahad's home.
Now, the man he's getting ready to talk about, as he finishes up, you'll probably be able to determine on your own that this man probably is not part, or I don't think he's part of the group, but he is being mentioned because he has died there. So let's see what he's got to say about it.
And less than 2 months later, Rahad was reported missing on April 13th, 2008. He had gone to visit the pharmacy and he just failed to come home. Now, the following day is when Rahad's body was recovered in Lady Bird Lake, but there was something immediately wrong with what this person had found. So, a passerby who was walking by Lady Bird Lake actually found Rahad's floating body, and she would later say that when she saw him, his hands and legs were bound and that there was duct tape over both his eyes and his mouth. And other people who watched Rahad's body being pulled from the water would eventually say the same thing, that they saw this duct tape, that his hands and his feet were bound together, obviously showing that he didn't do this himself, right? Well, you're wrong. The Austin Police Department declared that to have been Rahad took his own life. Somehow they said that he had bound his hands and his feet and everything together and duct taped his own eyes and mouth.
Yeah, now see, I've talked about this case a couple of times. Apparently, this man, Rahad, had tied his own hands, duct taped his own hands behind his back, duct taped his feet together, duct taped his eyes and mouth shut, and then, I guess, hopped. I mean, his legs are duct taped together. I guess hopped into the lake. So while he may have been murdered and at the lake, I don't think he should be considered part of the accidental drownings. But again, let's see what he's got to say.
Before throwing himself into the water. Very, very strange.
Yeah.
There were also people who reported seeing his body, like the people who prepared his body for his death rites, that said that there were bruises and other injuries all over his body. The guy actually said that it looked like
He duct
Rahad
taped
had been
himself,
attacked by an
jumped in the
animal.
lake.
He was so badly injured. And yet, those injuries were never really noted or acknowledged by the authorities. It seems like they just wanted to call it and move on. Even though his hands and feet were tied together, his mouth and face, there was duct tape everywhere. He had injuries all over his body. He had just been raided by the FBI 2 months prior. By the way, nothing ever came of that. The FBI never brought any charges against him, and they have never publicly stated why they raided his home. And yeah, so that was back in 2008. This story goes all the way up to the present day. You see, on Saturday, October 16th, 2012, another body was found in Lady Bird Lake. This guy was 21-year-old Cole Christensen, a native of Anchorage, Alaska. Now, Cole was a smart guy. He was a former student of the University of Alaska. People absolutely loved him. His friends had only great things to say about him. And interestingly enough, Cole was known by his friends and family to be somebody who loved activities on the water. He loved jet skiing. He loved wakeboarding. He just loved everything and anything water related. People knew him as a very talented guy who could maneuver on water with ease. So it was shocking when his body was found floating in Austin's Lady Bird Lake. Now, police immediately ruled Cole's death as non-suspicious. They never investigated this as a homicide. And I couldn't find any details on why they never looked into this or exactly how he had died. So this is going to be a pattern that you see begin to emerge. Because just a few years later, in February of 2014, a 20-year-old student from the local university, St. Edwards, was found once again floating in Lady Bird Lake. This time, it was Alano Valle. He was a 20-year-old student at St. Edwards, and all of his friends described him as just the best guy, like somebody who wouldn't hurt a fly, someone who studied hard for his tests, who passed his classes with flying colors. He was always down to help people. And interestingly, there haven't been that many details that have been released when it comes to Alano Valle. But he disappeared, then 10 days later, he was found once again in Lady Bird Lake. And the Austin Police Department has never classified that as anything more than either an accidental death or and I couldn't track down exactly what they said happened to him. And again that year, October of 2014, another man would be found in Lady Bird Lake. This time, it was Aaron David Rublik, who moved to Austin in 2011. Now, Aaron had been hanging out drinking with his friends on Thursday night before he eventually caught a cab and wanted to return home from Rainy Street, where he and his friends had been drinking. You're going to see Rainy Street pop up throughout this video. Rainy Street is a bar district in Austin. It is a very, very popular area. They kind of shut down the street so that thousands of people every weekend can go out drinking and partying. This is where a lot of the people have been going missing. There are theories that people are being drugged on Rainey Street. There's no concrete proof, but you're going to see this come up time and time again. So back to David Rublik, who was found in October of 2014 in Lady Bird Lake. Now, he disappeared around 2 a.m. on Friday morning, and a day and a half later, he was found by fishermen who were on Lady Bird Lake. Police said that there was no sign of trauma on David's body, and at the time, they said once again, it was another accidental drowning, just another tragic accident. But when 22-year-old Julio Santos III went missing and was found in Lady Bird Lake, that's when people started to grow suspicious. So Julio was known as a very friendly, kind, loving individual, and his body was recovered from Lady Bird Lake on June 7th, 2015. Now, they did a toxicology report on Julio, and they found that he had been drinking before his death, but they found no drugs in his system. He was found with all of his clothes on, except his belt was missing. And just like all the other victims before him, Julio's death was ruled as an accidental drowning. You'll see this many times. Austin police find these bodies and they immediately, right afterwards, say that it was an accident and it was nothing more than an accident. Julio Santos' death, just like everyone else's, has never been explained.
In 2015, 22-year-old Julio Santos III was home in Austin for a week after graduating before he was set to start a new job in Seattle.
He was just a great kid, just an amazing guy.
But his life was cut short. While his death certificate says drowning, his sister, Melanie Raymond, doesn't agree.
I think he was drugged. I think he was overserved. I think he was lured over there.
She says any sight of the lake can be triggering.
I picture him, in the river. I picture somebody hurting him, and he's just left.
At Thursday's city council meeting, family members of others who disappeared or were found dead in the lake called for more safety measures.
I think they're connected. It's not, they're too much the same to be a coincidence.
The city says at this point, there's no evidence of foul play in any of these cases.
It's like, APD's reading from a script, and it's the exact same things, and if they were different, why would they be saying the exact same things? So yes, I think they're all connected.
City Council passed a resolution calling on the city manager to come up with a safety plan, including exploring the capacity to have park rangers patrol and EMS stationed on the trailhead.
If they are adopting resolutions to pacify, that's not enough. If they're going to adopt a resolution and take 10 years to do it, that's not enough. So far, all we've received are empty promises.
The city manager is also tasked with looking into halo cameras for the area and working with bars to prevent over-serving alcohol.
We should be able to have fun and not have to worry about, our loved ones being found in the river and being told, oh, they just drank too much.
Last week, the city announced patrols. There are already temporary lights and fencing, and a permanent infrastructure plan is in the works. 8 years after losing her brother, Raymond says this time she hopes the momentum keeps going.
I think it is different. This seems to be bigger. There's a lot more attention. I hope it won't fizzle out. Again, I hope it doesn't.
Then they found the body of 35-year-old Fernando Domingo Ortiz. His death has yet to be explained. And after that, the body of 37-year-old Luis Ramirez. Luis was born in Texas. He had moved to Austin after high school, once again had attended St. Edward's University. He was a very smart guy. He had a double degree in psychology and political science. His passion was music. He really loved helping people. Friends of his said that he would give anyone the shirt off of his back. But once again, he disappeared and was found floating dead in Lady Bird Lake. But once again, we still don't know anything really about what happened to him. He was found in the lake. They say it's probably an accident. There's no real finite answer here. And we get into 2018 at this point. And this is where things just exponentially explode and where my connection comes in. October 6, 2018, 25-year-old Christopher White goes missing in Austin. At the time that Christopher went missing, he was in town to attend the Austin City Limits Music Festival. I've been to ACL many times. It's very, very crowded. It's very hot. People get dehydrated all the time. But interestingly, after returning home from their night at the music festival, Christopher told his friends that he wanted to go check the water out outside of their rental property. He went without his shoes, his wallet, or his phone. This was very late at night in the pitch black. Later on, his body was found in the Colorado River close to the rental property where his friends and him had been staying. And his toxicology report showed that there were a number of drugs in his system, along with alcohol. And now we get to Martin. Now, I actually sat down with Martin's brother, Mitchell, to discuss what he thinks happened to his brother all these years later.
Almost every time I've talked about this, Martin is the one that keeps coming up. You'll see why in a second.
Years later, authorities still are going with the thought and the theory that Martin accidentally drowned. His brother, his blood brother, Mitchell, does not think so. And there's no one better to explain exactly what happened than Mitchell himself.
Yeah, buddy. So my name is Mitchell Gutierrez. I live here in Austin. I've been here since 2006. My brother Martin was one of the victims off of Rainy Street. November 19th, 2018 is when he went missing. He used to come visit me all the time. He went to Texas Tech and all that. When he graduated, he actually moved in with me and my now wife. Would go out all the time. He loved Austin. He's such a happy person. We'd go to the gym every single day. It was like 6-7 days a week. We were the most boring, consistent people in the world, but we were happy. One night, we were out and about with dinner with my, wife and her family and everything. And I had to work the next day. It was a Sunday. And he went out with a few friends to go watch some football out on Rainy Street. He met them at one bar. And then, he didn't get any drinks or anything. And then he went to Luster Pearl, was the next bar they went to. And he had, according to his tab, and Lynn got him one drink and he bought one drink. That was it. By the time he got to Alibi, which was next door, he couldn't even walk. I looked at the footage. The manager was nice enough to let me know, let me and my family see the footage from Alibi. And I mean, he was.
Did you catch that? He had 2 drinks in one bar. And he had been completely sober when he got there, had 2 drinks. 2 drinks should not have that much effect on almost anyone. Hold on. He had 2 drinks. Then by the time he got out of that bar, he could barely walk. Sounds like a little more than 2 drinks or something in those 2 drinks, doesn't it?
Was like, kind of leaning off, and he was just acting different. Very odd behavior. I've drank with my brother, for years and years, and I know his mannerisms. I know when something, and what I saw was not him. And then you see the footage where he goes to the back, like towards the restrooms. So everyone was on the inside portion of it. Well, there's an outside like deck area, and you can actually go and get out the bar that way. And that's where he went. So none of the buddies saw, when he left. And what I saw, he was like skipping, he's like a buff kid, like he was a power lifter, and he was like skipping out of the bar. I was like, what the hell is that, anyways, and then he made his way down towards Rainy Street near the Craft Pride bar, which is on the end, like this like circle area, that roundabout. And you see him just kind of looking at his phone, and then going across. And then, but he's just not himself. We were able to get some footage at the Towers of Town Lake, which is the last footage I have of my brother. And he's walking, and there's this like split where you go either in front of the convenience store or you go in this little like cul-de-sac. There's like nothing there, and it's dark as can be.
Sorry.
He looked at, the cops did back and forth, and we didn't see anything that looked like Martin going in front of that convenience store. So for some reason, I have no idea why, he had to have gone in this area. And we always took Ubers everywhere. We were very consistent with it, but Martin was very naive. He was very kind, whereas if someone said, oh, hey, I have a flat tire, can you help me? He would have been there in a heartbeat, or someone screams for help, he's going to help. Like, ask questions later, help someone. And then that was the last I ever got. And then I woke up the next day, went to work. I worked 6:30 to 2:30, Monday through Friday. I had like the best job back then. And I'd always wait for him. I'd get our pre-workouts and everything ready. And at 5 o'clock, he didn't show up. I was like, hey, dude, like, where you at? Called him up, nothing. I called his work, and he didn't show up for work. This kid never missed a day of work in his life, ever. He was very consistent. He was dependable. And so something was off. I called my buddy. He's like, dude, I texted him. I was like, where you at, man? Like, you left the bar, this and that. And I knew something was off immediately. Like I said, we were a victim of routine. We never broke away or steered from it. Then the search began. The next day, we were calling around. We were, calling his girlfriend, all these things, like trying to piece together. Some buddies went to Rainy Street asking questions, all this. The next day, I went to Seton facilities. I went to St. David's facilities trying to find a John Doe or something that matched his description or anything like that. Any new admissions, traumas, anything, and nothing. So we got back, we put up a post on Instagram and Facebook, and it just blew up. And we had a news crew from like KXAN, Spectrum, Fox, all that. They were here like within hours. And so we were really able to get the word out to, start this search. The APD got involved and everything, the detectives, all that. And we started, a whole process, and we were searching, and we searched for a week.
It's been almost 3 days, and Martin Gutierrez is still missing. His friends and family searched for him all day today, but nothing turned up. They are not giving up, though. KVU's Patrick Perez is live on Rainey Street near downtown Austin, where they put up posters.
Well, Mike, this is a poster Martin's friends and family have placed throughout Rainey Street and the surrounding area. They're hoping that someone will recognize him from that picture and know where he is. Now, throughout the day, search crews have been in the air, on the water, and on the ground looking for Martin. His friends and family were out there, too, checking places he may have wandered off to in the dark. Many of them drove at least 5 hours just to help search for him. Martin's friends last saw him early Monday morning at the Alibi on Rainey Street. He tried to find a ride home, but he never made it. Nearly 72 hours later, his family hopes he'll turn up soon.
I'm hoping he's not in the water that had drowned. I'm hoping someone didn't hurt him and he's down somewhere and he can't do anything, or someone took him. I just don't want to think that he's behind a dumpster somewhere.
At a press conference earlier today, a detective said they don't suspect foul play, but an APD spokesperson later told me they haven't ruled it out just yet. Martin's family is offering a $5,000 reward to anyone who has any information about where he may be. They'll also be here tomorrow morning, bright and early, working on Thanksgiving to find him. We're live in downtown Austin tonight. I'm Patrick Perez, KVU News.
They actually had the Travis County Search and Rescue go out with their helicopters and look around, and they told us that he was not in the water. They were adamant that he wasn't there, and so I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my God, dang it. Like, that was my biggest fear. He was going to be in the water. And I remember telling my mom, like, he's got to be somewhere. Like, we got him, Mom. Like, he's not in the water. Let's focus our searches elsewhere. Every day we'd meet up at the top of Rainey Street, and people would go all over the place to search around, put flyers up, whatever we could. The APD, man, they had 2 dumbass police officers that were actually going to local areas and asking for the wrong date. Like, I had their employees call me to tell me this because they refused to listen, and they were like, the kid went missing Sunday night, Monday morning. No, they're like, we want Monday, we want this and that. And I was just livid. Like, this is their job, get it right. And my brother isn't just a nobody. He's not a number. He's a human being just like everyone else, and we just had so many inconsistencies with the APD, and it was tough, man. We had search, and then the morning of November 26th, about 5 a.m., I get a text saying, I have your brother. If you tell anything to the APD, I'll cut his throat and I'll send him to you piece by piece.
Holy crap.
I was terrified. Like, I remember waking Whitney up. I was like, oh my God, he's alive. We got him. I woke up my mom. I was like, we got him. Like, I was like, I'll do whatever you want. They were like, we know where you live. We have your phone number, all this stuff. I want you to drive to this area, and I'm going to call you right back. And they were texting me and all this, and I was like, okay, whatever you want. And I looked at my wife and I looked at my mom, and I gave them a hug and a kiss, and I said, if I don't come back, I will love you forever, but I will bring back Martin. You have my word. No matter what, he's coming back with me. And man, I'm sorry, dude.
No, it's okay, man. This is tough.
And I drove around. They were like, send 500 here to this account. We have someone in the HEB with you watching you right now. I drove around, man, all over Austin. I gave my wife my location. She was seeing me drive all over Austin. She was freaking the hell out. And I had a meeting with the detectives at 10 a.m. that morning. I had this whole template set up, man, of everything I was going to drill them on, everything they mismanaged, all the information that they should have gotten, and all this stuff. And when I showed up to that interview, I told those guys, like, I have to go to this or else they're going to suspect. They were like, don't say anything. We have someone going there to where we have him stored. I'm going to send you a photo of him right now. And so I was like, okay, like whatever you want, man. And so I showed up to that interview with my wife and a buddy of mine who worked for the Travis County Sheriff's Department. I was just numb, man. Like, I couldn't focus. I couldn't, all I could picture was just my brother there, because they told me, they were like, in the condition he's in, you're going to have to take him to a hospital as soon as we drop him off to you. And I mean, I'm just picturing my little brother, man, who's like the greatest person in the world, just, you know, in that situation. The police like got a call like 5 minutes before I showed up, and they said they found a body on Rainy Street.
Austin police homicide detectives say the body pulled from Lady Bird Lake yesterday
Hold on.
is Martin
Yeah, it
Gutierrez,
is.
the
They're
man who went missing after a
here.
night out on Rainy Street.
This would be a good time to pause it.
And after more than
If I can figure out how to work the laptop. Okay. Yes. That's what I was going to say too. Is the smiley face killings. The smiley face killings. They believe that the Austin killings are connected to the smiley face killings, so they're not similar. They believe they're connected because somebody, either a group, one person or a group of people, somebody is killing men in areas like the 17 that have died in Austin, however many's died in Chicago, some that have died in Michigan, some that have died in New York, some that have died, and it's been like a whole thing. So they believe that the killings in Austin are connected to the other killings in the other areas because they're all very similar. They're all very, they're all men. They say it's been between the ages of 18 and 35. I think it's actually a little narrower than that, but whatever. It's been men. Most of them are either Hispanic or they look like they could be Hispanic. Some of them obviously aren't. Yeah, and there's been a bunch of them. There's been a whole bunch of them. And it's not just Austin, Texas. It's a lake in Chicago. It's a lake in Chicago, Illinois. It's a lake, I don't remember the name of the city, never have remembered it, in Michigan. It's another, you know, they're happening everywhere. One of the subscribers mentioned last week when we were talking about it that there was a couple drownings in Nashville. So I looked those up. Those are just, they don't seem to be connected yet. But here's the thing. I don't think any of these started out sounding connected. You know, when it's just one or two, because people drown, people do stupid shit, they get drunk, whatever, they fall in, they drown. Excuse me. When it's just one or two, fine, they may not be connected. When they start compiling and bodies are piling up and the police aren't investigating, they're going, nope, it's not, they're not related, it's not a murder, it's just drownings. No, something is very wrong. And as I said at the beginning of this video, when I was doing research about Nashville, I only found a couple of them in Nashville, which doesn't mean that they're not part of it. It just means that's might be a new area to look into. I did discover, as I mentioned earlier, there's Canyon Lake, also in Texas. It's up by, when I say up, because I'm down here by Corpus. It's out by New Braunfels, San Marcos, and all that in Texas. And that's Canyon Lake. And there's only been 4, but that's more than they normally have. And it's all kind of in a few months, like in a couple of months instead of over a year or whatever. So that might be a new area. And I think there are people, I don't know how to put this. When they start out, like I said, when it's just 1 or 2, it doesn't start out like, oh, okay, it's just people drowning in a lake. When you have 5, 7, 10, 15, 17, and they're all drowning, and it could be in, like I said, Austin, Texas, Chicago, Illinois, wherever the bucket is in Michigan, whatever. When they're all popping up like that, and all the police and all the areas are saying, nope, these are just accidental drownings, there is something going on. Now, I personally don't know if this is one person or a group, and I don't know if they're getting killed at the lake or if they're getting killed somewhere else and dumped at these lakes. But it's just extremely odd that across the United States, multiple cases of men are coming up missing. So it's not so much similar to it as it believed to be connected to the smiley face killing. And that was the original video I was looking up, was trying to find this evening, was a documentary about the smiley face killings. What I was going to play, but I saw this, couldn't find the other. I saw this, the one we were just looking at, and I decided to show a little bit of this one. Always go to the people that do these videos, go to their channels, provide their love, and provide them some love, show them some love. I do believe his channel is Paranormal Files. I would have to look it up again. But it shows probably within the video, if you go and look, it probably shows the name of the channel that provides these. And there's been lots of channels talking about this. As I pointed out in other videos, and I will continue to point out, I guess, because I get new people all the time. People that are new to my channel, so they're new to this case, they're new to the stuff, so I keep pointing this out. I didn't even know that much about it. It was a few years ago, because I live South Texas, I live Southeast Texas. But there was a few people, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. My daughter told me a few years ago about it. She was talking about a serial killer, because we were talking about serial killers or something. And she said, you know there's a serial killer in Austin, Texas? And I went, what? Excuse me? And she said, yeah, Lady Bird Lake, there's all kinds of people dying, and they're all men. And I was like, are you sure about this? Because I've not heard anything about it. So I went and started doing a little bit of research. And that's how I got started on this. I really think it's odd that these people, these men, are just coming up missing. And as I've said before in previous videos, and I will continue to say, when it's one or two, not that suspicious. We start getting a lot, we start needing to investigate it. Instead of the police going, oh, no, these are accidental drownings, they're not connected. No, bullshit. Nobody believes these are accidental drownings. Nobody. Okay, I can't say for other people. I don't know of anyone personally that believes they are accidental drownings. So to say that no one believes it, that's not a fair statement. That I shouldn't have made that statement. But so I'm trying to take responsibility for a mistake. But it is odd that all these people keep drowning at these lakes all across the United States. And the thing that I've pointed out before in previous videos is, let's just say, if you use a graph, let's say we're going through a time period where there's not that many happening in Austin, or they've not happened in a while in Austin. You will see those deaths spike in other areas, like Chicago's deaths might be spiking, while Austin's isn't, or Chicago's might be down, Austin might be down, but they might be spiking in Michigan. So it's like they're traveling. Interesting that the police make I think it's a lot of people make jokes. There's been jokes. I don't know about the other areas, but here in Austin, there's jokes. It's a member of the Austin Police Union. That's been made a couple times. Now, do I do that? Necessarily. That's the thing. No one can actually rule out. I just really thought all these people, police are just going up. And like I said, it's not just Austin doing this. Police in Chicago, Illinois. It's the police in wherever this is happening at Michigan. It's the police where this is happening at New York. I'm trying to find more videos. I want to see how many places are actually having this problem. That's why I started doing some research about Nashville, because one of my subscribers, Darlene, mentioned that they found pulled a body out of a lake near a bar, and all these are bar areas. All these are bar areas, like the ones in Austin on Rainy Street. All these are bar areas or party areas. In the case of Gutierrez, he only had the two drinks. According to his tab, he only had 2 drinks. went in fine and come out and couldn't walk. Wasn't himself. I think it's interesting that they're all happening, obviously, at like interrelated areas. I think it's interesting that always in a head party is a big party town. And there's reports now, so something to keep Texas are related becomes interesting because the one in Austin, the ones in the San Marcos area, and the ones in the Dallas area, because Austin would be the south, the most southern part. And since I'm down here off the Gulf, I'm down here by, off the Gulf, I'm down here by the beach. I've not had a problem down here, but there's lakes down here too. It's not just beach area down here, there's lakes down here. So I'm kind of curious to see if I can find out if anything weird's been happening here in my own area. But we've got 3 major areas in Texas where they seem to be happening. So yeah, they are, I believe they're connected. I find it very hard to believe that all these people are getting drunk and falling into the fucking lake by themselves. I'm with, and I've mentioned this in previous. Forgive me if in your opinion I have, but I just don't think these men are getting drunk and going to the lake by themselves in the middle of the night and drowning. Most of the time, if you are partying at a lake, you're out there with your friends, family, you're barbecue, whatever. If you fall in, somebody's going to try to save your ass. These people are ending up out there by themselves in the middle of the night, usually in the colder months of the year, like January, February, March. I don't know about you, but even in Texas, I don't want to be swimming in a lake in the middle of January at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night. That's not where I'm going to go. So with that being said, I don't think these men are just out there partying by themselves and fall into a lake. I don't believe that they're drinking at the bars and then staggering blocks away. Because in order to get from Rainy Street to Lady Bird Lake, to any part of Lady Bird Lake, you've got a little bit of walking ahead of you. It's not like you're staggering out of a bar and down a hill and into the lake. You've got some paths to cross. You got trees, you got shrubs, you got bushes, you got all kinds of shit. There's some fencing, but not enough. I just don't think these men are getting out of these bars and deciding to go on a bike trail or walk trail in the middle of the night in the colder months of the year for Austin and deciding just to go to the lake by themselves. I just don't buy it. And again, the amount of people dying does change it. 1 or 2 people dying, 1 or 2 dying, drowning in a year, fine, whatever. It's an accident. They fell out of their boat. They fell out of their kayak. They went swimming and they weren't supposed to, shit like that. And most of that shit's going to happen in warmer weather, not in the colder. And I get it. Being that it's Texas, it's warm. Say, January in Chicago. It's warm January in 50 degrees, 60 degrees in Austin, and 70 degrees here. Because there's that much difference in the state. But when it's 60 degrees in Austin, it's still kind of cold and falling into the. There's so much that happens in these experiences that can't be right. Like I said, that wasn't the video. The video we were watching wasn't the video I was going to put up. Was not. I had a whole different one, but I couldn't find it again. I will eventually find it because it doesn't just talk about Austin, Texas. It talks about all the men that have died in all the areas. There's another video I stumbled onto once and I'm trying to find it again. Excuse me. I tried to find it again to show tonight of a man that him and his microphone and a friend that's a cameraman, just the two of them. And they're hitting the area at Rainy Street and they're trying to talk to people. And the police made for talking to people. The police made him leave. Like there's a video, you can find it. He's microphone. That's it. They're just stopping people on the sidewalk. And they're talking to people. And these people are talking willingly. But the police asked him to leave and not to discuss this with anybody. And he didn't leave, so they arrested him. I'm like, why are you arresting this man? All he did was ask some questions about a Rainy Street serial killer. Actually, the nickname Austinites have given him is the Rainy Street Ripper because most of them happen off Rainy Street. I don't think that matches very good because when I hear Rainy Street Ripper, I think of Jack the Ripper. Then I think of women and mutilations and so forth. So that's not what's happening. It's women. It's not women. It's men. And there's not mutilations. They're just usually bruised and battered and stuff. So I've got some videos I need to find. I got some things I want to wrap up with. I want to do with this, and I keep covering it because it's not solved. And it's not solved mostly because the Austin Police Department's not doing anything about it. They're just telling friends and family and whatever, oh, it was an accidental drowning. No investigations. Like there was a woman found a couple of weeks ago. Now, she doesn't fit the standard that drives there. It's a 60-year-old homeless woman. So she doesn't fit the, dark-haired, dark-eyed man in his 20s or whatever. But again, what is a homeless woman doing down there in the water in the middle of the night? I mean, I could kind of get her possibly getting down to the lake and maybe washing herself off, because she's homeless. I could even kind of find her falling in, but initially, if you're just on shore, even if she falls forward, she's falling into. Her name hasn't been released. Her information hasn't been released. I don't know if they're still trying to find her family and let them know. But why is a 60-year-old homeless woman down at Lady Bird Lake in the middle of the night? Using water and stuff. But these aren't happening during the day. They're happening in the middle of the night. She's homeless, so let's take that for a second. She's a homeless person. Maybe it's easier for her to go wash off in the cover of darkness than out in the middle of the day. Maybe that's part of it. Still didn't make sense to me. Now, she doesn't fit the criteria or whatever for these people that are drowning. My nose right here. I think it's the glasses. But she doesn't fit it. I get it. But so she may not be part of it. It just might be a coincidence it's a 60-year-old homeless woman that drowned down the lake. I still don't understand why. I don't get why these people are. And then, like a couple months ago, it was a 72-year-old woman that was found dead at Lady Bird Lake. And again, I don't know if these people are being killed somewhere else and dumped in the lake, or if they're being killed at the lake. And the story is the same whether you're talking about the deaths here in Austin, Texas, whether you're talking about the deaths in Chicago, Illinois, whether you're talking about the deaths in Michigan, whether you're talking about whatever state, whatever city, whatever town they're in, they're all very similar. They're all very similar. Very similar. And believed to be connected. Now, there are a couple people that have gone from city to city, town to town, state to state, and they've interviewed people because they believe there's a connection. there's a smiley face. The reason why the smiley face thing keeps popping up too is there's usually a spray painted smiley face somewhere near where the body was found. Not every case, not every time, but in most cases. So that's another part that makes it a connection. I honestly don't know. I find this story very interesting. Since I do true crime, these are crimes. I don't care what APD says, these are crimes. And because it's happening here in my state, that's kind of how this got started. But that's when I started finding out that it's not just Texas. It's other cities, other towns, other states. That's also tonight, like I said, I found out there's a lake, Canyon Lake up by San Marcos. There's been finding a little bit more than average bodies. And I saw an article about a lake in Dallas having problems. So that's more investigation that needs to be done because they could all be connected. I don't know. But I'm going to keep going on this one. This is going to be the one case I'm going to be covering every time I do a Friday Night Live. I mean, I occasionally touch in on the Menendez brothers, and I occasionally touch in on I was trying to touch in on the JFK files, but nobody really seems to have any interest in that at all. I did a little bit on the JFK files. It's basically the same shit that was released before during the Trump administration released a bunch of stuff, but so did the Biden administration, and I think the Obama administration did too. And when I go through the paperwork, most of it, not all of it, obviously. Most of it is pretty similar to each other. I haven't seen any real bombshells come out of that one. Not yet. I mean, and if they do, because I'm kind of keeping my eye on it, if something comes up with those, I will definitely be talking about that. Because I can't, I mean, there's not enough deaths going on right now for me to talk about this every Friday. I don't know. I'm finding a lot of videos now. I'm finding a lot of videos that I didn't have before. About the Austin ones, about everywhere. So I've got plenty of video footage I can cover. I got plenty of it. I have got plenty of it. But yes, they are very similar. And they're happening a lot. Somebody's decided to kill our men. You know, usually you get something going on like with Ted Bundy. It was brunette women, usually in their 20s. There was a couple under 18. There was a couple that were closer to 30. But, you know, so you had a bunch of women that were afraid to go anywhere. There's been several instances where men have killed prostitutes. And their main course things be prostitute girl. So for a while there, you've got a bunch of prostitutes, strippers they're afraid to go anywhere, and they're afraid to do what they're supposed to do. Then you have John Wayne Gacy that was killing young men that worked for him. Young, either gay men or bisexual men. Same thing with Jeffrey Dahmer. His were mostly gay or bisexual men that he was trying to turn into partners. We're not going to get into all that. That shit's bad. And most people know the story on all those. There was Bob Bardella of Kansas City, Missouri. He was also killing young men. So for every time you have a serial killer, you obviously have a group of people that are afraid. The thing that happens with this one is men tend to not, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, in my opinion from what I've seen through life, men tend to not be as afraid or to try to, or take this stuff as seriously. You don't usually see a bunch of men going, you know what, I'm not going to go to Rainy Street and party no more because I'm afraid I might die there. You know what I'm saying? Now, I could be wrong. I haven't gone around and interviewed a bunch of men, but just throughout my life in general, that typically is not the thing. You know, you typically don't have a bunch of men going, well, I'm not going to party at Rainy Street anymore. Interesting thing is my neighborhood is mostly Hispanic neighborhood. And I talk to my neighbor a lot. And he was talking about going to Austin. And he was talking about going to Lady Bird Lake. He'd heard a lot about Lady Bird Lake, and he was wanting to go there and do some fishing. And I said, nope, don't go there. You might not come back home. Now he is a lot older than these guys are, so he might be safe. But I just simply said, I said, don't go to Lady Bird Lake by yourself, especially not at night. He said, well, I want to do some fishing down there. I thought about doing some fishing down there. And he goes, I thought about hitting a couple of the bars. And I said, no, don't do that. And I don't think at first he took me seriously. I don't think at first he thought I think he thought I was joking. Because him and I sit outside, we share the duplex that we share a front porch. But we sat outside and talked a little bit, and we joke around a lot. So I think he thought I was kidding at first, and I went, no, I'm not kidding. Because he was laughing at first, and he goes, what do you mean you're not kidding? I said, I'm quite serious. Hello, Sprinkle Donut. Oh my goodness, how are you tonight? I'm so glad you're here. I was getting ready to wrap this up because I started it at 9. So 9 Central. I am so glad you finally made it, and now I'm going to wrap it up. But we were talking about Lady Bird Lake. We were talking about the people that have died at Lady Bird Lake, the men, and we were talking about the fact that it's not just Lady Bird Lake. It's a lake in Chicago, Illinois. It's a lake in Michigan. It's a lake in New York. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's very much okay. I just really, to be honest, I don't usually keep, I was starting this at 10 o'clock, and I was doing them to like 11, 11:30 or 12. And subscriber said I start doing it at 9 if I'm going to run late, that way it's running. If I'm going to do an hour or two, to start them at 9, and then that way I'm done by 10, 10:30, 11. Suggested, so I took the suggestion. I mean, I'm a new enough channel that I'm enough of a baby channel that I think all creators should take their suggestions from their subscribers. But yeah, we were talking about the Lady Bird Lake, the guys that have drowned at Lady Bird Lake or various lakes across the United States. About the fact that most of them are between the 18 and 35. Most of them either are Hispanic or they look like they could be. Because I don't think when they're killing these men, I don't think they know their names. I think they're looking for a certain look, just like when serial killers kill prostitutes or brunettes or whatever. I think they're looking for a specific type of man. I don't think they're going, by the way, are you Hispanic? No? Okay, well then I won't kill you. We'll leave you alone. I think they're looking at a man and he fits the basic look. He's between 18 and 25. He's got dark hair, dark eyes. He looks like he could be Hispanic or of Hispanic descent. But I don't think the serial killer is walking up to guys going, are you Hispanic? No? Okay, then I'll leave you alone. Let me go find a Hispanic man. I don't think he's doing that. But he, they are between 18 and 25. I'm not 25, 35. Most of them are Hispanic or look Hispanic. There's been a few Middle Eastern and a few white men. There's been a few black men. But the majority are Hispanic or look Hispanic. I even think there's been one or two Asian. And I'm talking about not just about the ones in Austin, but all across the United States. The ones that are dying could be anywhere. So, but I was getting ready to wrap this up, Sprinkle Donut. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I am so sorry. If you ever want to, and I know you're part of the replay crew, If you ever want to catch them live, they are at 9 o'clock Central Time on Friday nights. So if you can get to another live, that would be great. The lady, they are very suspicious. I'm glad you said that. They are very, very suspicious. And like I was saying, these are not, excuse me just a second, these are not happening just at Lady Bird Lake in Austin, Texas. They're happening at a lake in Chicago, or at a lake in Michigan, at a lake wherever. It's happening all over the United States. And not only happening all over the United States, but they're all men around the same age, around the same basic build. They're all men at a lake area, typically a party or bar area. And the thing I've noticed, and I don't know how many people have picked this out yet, most of them, and with the videos I've been watching, you'll catch on to this. I won't say most of them. I would say 60 to 70% of them at some point have stopped on a truck. Now there is, but I know here in Austin, Texas, food trucks are a big deal. Like we have a lot of taco stand food trucks. People go order 3 or 4 tacos or whatever they're selling at this one, cheeseburgers, whatever. They're getting their food and then they're wandering off and falling in the lake. I'm at a loss. I'm very much at a loss. I don't understand what these police think these people are doing. Do they think they're just going for a late night swim? Do they think they're going by themselves boating? I mean, I guess occasionally, maybe, some of these people intended to go to the lake by themselves, but most people that are in a partying mood and they're going to go to the lake and do some partying are with their friends or family. They're not just roaming the lake by themselves. And again, I don't know about the other areas in the others, the other cities, Chicago and so forth. I don't know about those areas, but I know here, since most of them are happening off the street called Rainy Street or near Rainy Street, in order to be, if you're that drunk, if you are that drunk, you are literally staggering from Rainy Street down a few blocks to where the bike and hike trails start. You're staggering a couple blocks into the bike and hike. So you're staggering first a couple of miles, and then you're staggering a couple more blocks, and then you're going to trip over brush and trees and everything else just to fall into the lake. No. That's not. Most people, if they are that drunk, are probably going to pass out or fall down way before they get to the lake. Way before. I need to get some good videos, and I've said this before, and I get busy or something happens and I end up not finding it, or I do look for it and I can't find what I'm looking for. There has been a few good videos that show what Lady Bird Lake looks like. What it looks like at night, what it looks like on the trails, what it looks like during the day, and you get to see all the trees and shrubbery and brush and whatever surrounding the lake. In the video we were watching earlier, you could see all those stuff. You would have to climb and fall over a lot of shit to get to the lake. So there is that. There is that. But unless anybody has any questions at the moment, I think I might go ahead and wrap this up. And we'll pick it up again next Friday. I'm going to try to do better to find the videos I'm looking for. Because like I said, the one I was looking for tonight I couldn't find, but I found one that I thought was close. And we might cover more of his video too. We just might do that. We might do that. We might, because it's a 3.5 hour documentary. I'm obviously not going to cover that in one night. I'm not going to cover that in one night. There's no way everybody through that. But we might watch it in segments. Thank you so much, Sprinkled Donut. I like doing what I'm doing, otherwise I wouldn't mess with it, because it's not like I'm making any money. So I thank you for the compliment. I like doing this. It gives since I'm retired, it gives me something to do. 2, I like talking about this stuff. And 3, Lady Bird Lake has a special spot in my heart because I'm from the area. Okay, I'm not from the area. I'm originally born in Kansas City, Missouri. Moved to Austin, Texas moved to Texas about 14 years ago. They've been in the Austin, Texas, or around the Austin area for many, many years, and now I moved down here by the Gulf. But I'm glad you caught one too. I'm just sorry that it was about to wrap up. I really am. And I appreciate your support. I appreciate everybody's support. So all 500 of you. I do appreciate my support. But unless somebody has questions or something, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up tonight. I think we've heard me talk long enough. So if it's your birthday, happy birthday. If it's your anniversary, happy anniversary. Be kind to each other. Be good to these men. And if you have a man in your life, thank you, Sprinkled Donut, you do the same. If you have a man in your life that, tell him to be careful. Tell him to be careful. It's not just Austin, it's a lot of places anymore. But everybody have a great night. I love everyone. I appreciate everybody's time. And y'all have a good one.